Hey there. I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying getting these stories to you. And if you are, please subscribe. It allows you to know when a new story is out and allows me to get more subscribers. So please subscribe. Also share. Share this with your friends. Share it on media. Just a post. Well, that'd be great. Please subscribe. Please share. It's free. Share and subscribe. It's free.
The road stretched endlessly before me. A ribbon of asphalt, swallowed by the dense Ontario forest. I'd been driving for hours, the hum of my rental car's engine my only companion. I was on my way to a client meeting in Sudbury, a last-minute trip my boss had dumped on me. The dashboard clock glowed 9:47 p.m. My eyes burned from staring at the headlights, cutting through the dark, and the GPS had lost signal 20 minutes ago. I needed a break. As I drove into the night, I saw the sign, Black Spruce Inn. 2 kilometers. It was weathered, leaning slightly to the side, the paint chipped, like it hadn't been touched in decades. A bed for the night sounded better than pushing on through the pitch-black wilderness, so I turned off the highway onto a narrow gravel-strewn road. The trees loomed closer here, their skeletal branches clawing at the sky. My tires crunched over the uneven ground, and a faint unease settled in my chest. Maybe it was the isolation, or maybe it was the way the forest seemed to swallow the sound of my engine. Either way, I told myself, it was just fatigue playing tricks on my mind. The inn came into view, a squat, 2-story building, with peeling clapboard siding and a sagging porch. A single light flickered above the entrance, casting jagged shadows across the lot. There were no other cars, no signs of life. I parked, grabbed my overnight bag, and stepped out into the chilly night air. The wind carried a faint, sour smell, like damp earth, and something rotting. I wrinkled my nose, and hurried toward the door. Inside, the lobby was a time capsule, faded floral wallpaper, a threadbare rug, and a wooden counter that looked like it had been carved from a single, massive tree. A bell sat on the counter, its brass dulled with age. I rang it, the sharp ding echoing in the stillness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from a back room, came the shuffle of footsteps. A man emerged, tall, gaunt, with skin so pale it almost glowed under the dim chandelier. His eyes were deep-set, shadowed, and he wore a gray suit that appeared out of place, compared to the decor of the lobby. "Welcome to the Black Spruce," he said, his voice low and raspy, like a breeze through dry leaves. "Name's Elias. You need a room?" "Yeah, just for the night," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm passing through, for work." He nodded, sliding a leather-bound ledger across the counter. "Sign here. Room 12, upstairs, end of the hall." His bony finger tapped a key on a hook behind him, then handed it to me. The metal was cold, heavier than I expected. He continued, "No Wi-Fi, no cell service out here. Keeps things quiet." I scribbled my name, and took the key. "Thanks. Anything I should know about the place?" Elias paused, his lips twitching into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Just keep the window shut. Gets drafty." Then he turned, and disappeared into the back room, without another word. The stairs creaked under my weight, as I climbed to the second floor. The hallway was narrow, lit by a single bulb that buzzed faintly. Room 12 was at the far end, its door slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and flicked on the light. The room was small, but clean, a twin bed with a quilted blanket, a nightstand with a chipped lamp, and a dresser that looked like it had been salvaged from an estate sale. A window overlooked the parking lot, framed by heavy curtains. I dropped my bag on the bed, and checked my phone. No bars, just like Elias said. Great. I was too tired to care much. I locked the door, kicked off my shoes, and flopped onto the bed. The mattress sagged under me, and the quilt smelled faintly of mildew. I closed my eyes, willing sleep to come quickly. That's when I heard it, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on glass. My eyes snapped open. The sound was coming from the window. I sat up, heart thudding. The curtains were still, but the tapping persisted, steady and deliberate. Tap tap tap, tap tap tap. I told myself it was a branch, a loose shutter, something normal. But curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. I crossed the room, and pulled the curtain aside. The parking lot stretched out below, my car a lonely speck under the flickering porch light. Beyond it, the forest pressed in, a wall of black. Nothing moved, no branches, no breeze. The tapping stopped, the moment I looked. I let out a shaky breath, and checked the window latch. It was locked tight. Elias's warning echoed in my head, keep the window shut. I let the curtain fall, and backed away. Back in bed, I tried to shake it off. Old buildings made noises, it was nothing. But as I drifted toward sleep, the tapping started again, fainter this time, but unmistakable. I pulled the blanket over my head, willing it to stop. Eventually, exhaustion won, and I slipped into a restless slumber. I woke to silence. The room was dark, the lamp off, though I didn't remember turning it out. My phone read 2:13 a.m. I lay still, listening. The air felt heavier, thicker, like it was pressing down on me. Then I heard it, a whisper. Not from the window, but from inside the room. It was soft, barely audible, a jumble of syllables I couldn't make out. My skin prickled. I fumbled for the lamp, but when I flicked the switch, nothing happened. The whisper grew louder, closer. It wasn't one voice, it was many, overlapping, rising and falling, like a chorus of static. I bolted upright, scanning the shadows. The room was empty, but the voices felt alive, circling me. My breath hitched as I grabbed my phone, the screen's glow cutting through the dark. I stumbled to the door, fumbling with the lock. The whispers followed, brushing against my ears, like cold fingers. The hallway was a tunnel of shadows, one single light bulb overhead. I ran toward the stairs, my footsteps thudding against the worn carpet. The whispers faded as I descended, replaced by a low guttural hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The lobby was empty, the ledger still open on the counter. Elias was nowhere in sight. I didn't care, I needed out. I shoved the front door open, and sprinted to my car, the gravel biting into my bare feet. The key was still in my pocket, thank God. I threw myself inside, locking the doors. The engine roared to life. I peeled out of the lot, the inn shrinking in my rearview mirror. I didn't stop until I hit the highway, the forest falling away behind me. By dawn, I'd reached a gas station, 50 kilometers north. My hands trembled as I sipped burnt coffee, replaying the night in my head. Had I imagined it? The tapping, the whispers, the hum, it felt real, too real. I decided to call the client and cancel the meeting. I'd make up an excuse later. I just wanted to go home. As I scrolled through my phone, something caught my eye, a photo I didn't remember taking. It was time-stamped 2:15 a.m., just after I'd woken up. The image showed room 12, the bed unmade, the lamp dark. And in the corner, near the window, was a shape. Tall, thin, its edges blurred, like smoke. Its head was tilted, facing the camera, but where a face should have been, there was only a void. My stomach dropped. I deleted the photo, hands shaking, and started the car. I didn't stop driving until I was back in Toronto. The city's lights, a shield against the dark. I told myself it was over, that I'd left it behind. But that night, as I lay in my own bed, I heard it again, the tapping. Soft, rhythmic, coming from my window. I didn't look. I couldn't. Because deep down, I knew, whatever was at the Black Spruce Inn hadn't stayed there. It had followed me home.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying getting these stories to you. And if you are, please subscribe. It allows you to know when a new story's out and allows me to get more subscribers. So please subscribe. Also share. Share this with your friends. Share it on media. Just a post. Well, that'd be great. Please subscribe. Please share. It's free. Share and subscribe. It's free.
I'd never been one for superstitions. Growing up in a small town, I'd laughed off the old folks' tales about restless spirits and cursed land. That was before I started working for Maple Crest Foods, a sprawling food service warehouse in the countryside. The job was supposed to be a fresh start, steady pay, mindless work, a chance to get my life back on track after a string of bad decisions. But from the first day, something felt off. And now, 3 weeks in, I'm starting to think the shadows in this place aren't just tricks of the light. I'm 29, single, and not exactly swimming in career prospects. So when I saw the ad for a night shift picker at Maple Crest, I figured it was perfect. The warehouse sat on the edge of a pine forest, about an hour's drive from civilization. But the pay was decent, and I didn't mind the solitude. The job was simple: pull orders from the shelves, load them onto pallets, and get them ready for the delivery trucks. The building itself was a hulking relic, gray concrete, rusted metal beams, and a roof that groaned under the weight of every storm. Inside, it was a maze of towering racks filled with canned goods, frozen meats, and industrial-sized bags of dry goods. The air always smelled faintly of mildew, and something metallic. I couldn't place it. The night shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and I was one of a dozen workers assigned to it. Most of my co-workers were quiet types, headphones in, heads down, focused on their quotas. The supervisor, a wiry guy named Paul with a permanent scowl, gave me the rundown on my first night. "Keep your pace up, don't wander, and don't touch anything you're not assigned to," he'd said, barely looking at me. "And if you hear anything weird, it's just the pipes, old building." I nodded, figuring he meant the usual creaks and rattles of a place this size. I didn't think much of it, then. The first week was uneventful. I'd clock in, grab my scanner, and trudge through the aisles. The cold from the freezer section seeping into my bones. The warehouse was dimly lit, with flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. Sometimes, I'd catch a shadow moving out of the corner of my eye, but it was always just another worker, or a trick of the tired light bulbs. I'd shake it off, and keep going. The monotony was almost comforting. It was the second week when things started to shift. I was in aisle 17, pulling a case of frozen chicken breasts, when I heard it. A low, guttural sound, like someone clearing their throat. I froze, my breath fogging in the frigid air. I turned, expecting to see Paul or one of the other pickers behind me, but the aisle was empty. The sound came again, sharper this time, from somewhere deeper in the racks. I told myself it was the pipes, like Paul had said, but my skin prickled anyway. I finished my pull, and hightailed it back to the main floor, my heart thumping louder than it should have. The next night, it wasn't just a sound. I was in aisle 9, dry goods, mostly pasta and flour, when I saw her. A woman. Standing at the far end of the aisle. She was tall, too tall, her head level with the third shelf, and her silhouette was wrong, like her limbs didn't bend the way they should. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there in the half-light, her face obscured by shadow. I blinked, and she was gone. My scanner beeped in my hand, snapping me out of it. I checked the time, 2:47 a.m. I told myself it was exhaustion, that my brain was playing tricks after too many late nights. But when I got back to the break room, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't mention it to anyone. Who would I tell? Paul? He'd probably fire me for being a nutcase. The other pickers? They barely acknowledged me beyond a grunt. I kept my head down, and powered through the rest of the shift, but the image of that woman stuck with me. Her stillness. Her impossible height. It gnawed at me. By the third week, I couldn't deny it anymore. Something was wrong with this place. It wasn't just the woman. The warehouse itself seemed to shift at night. Aisle numbers would change when I wasn't looking. 1 minute I'd be in 12, the next I'd turn a corner, and see 19 staring back at me from the sign overhead. The lights would dim for no reason, plunging whole sections into darkness. And the sounds, God, the sounds. Footsteps where no one was walking. Whispers I couldn't quite make out. A child's laugh, sharp and fleeting, echoing, from the freezer. I started asking around, subtly at first. During a smoke break, I leaned against the loading dock with a guy named Javier, one of the few who'd actually talked to me. You ever notice anything weird here? I asked, keeping my tone casual. He took a long drag, his eyes narrowing. Like what? I don't know. Sounds, shadows, stuff that doesn't add up. He exhaled a plume of smoke, staring out at the dark forest beyond the lot. Yeah, sometimes. You get used to it. Used to it? I pressed. What is it? He shrugged, flicking his cigarette into the gravel. Old place, lot of history. People say it's haunted, but I don't buy that crap. Just don't think about it too much. He walked off before I could ask more, leaving me with a sinking feeling in my gut. That night, I decided to dig deeper. On my break, I pulled out my phone and searched for anything about Maple Crest Foods. The company's website was bland, corporate jargon about quality service and community values, but a few pages into the search results, I found something else. A local news article from 1992, tragic fire at Maple Crest warehouse claims 5 lives. The story was sparse on details, a blaze in the freezer section, faulty wiring suspected, 5 workers trapped inside. The building had been rebuilt after, but the article mentioned ongoing safety concerns and unexplained incidents reported by staff over the years. I scrolled further and found a forum post from 2018, some ex-employee claiming they'd seen figures in the aisles and heard voices calling their name. The thread was full of skeptics calling it bullshit, but one reply stuck out: "They never should have rebuilt on that land. It's cursed." Cursed. The word rattled around in my head as I clocked back in. I tried to focus on my work, but every creak of the building felt like a warning. By 3 a.m., I was a wreck, jumpy, paranoid, second-guessing every shadow. I was in aisle 23 when it happened again. The woman was back, closer this time, maybe 10 feet away. Her head was tilted at an unnatural angle, and her arms hung limp, fingers almost touching the floor. I could see her face now, pale, eyeless, her mouth a black slash that stretched too wide. She didn't move, but the air around her pulsed with something alive. Something angry. I stumbled back, my scanner clattering to the floor. "What the hell are you?" I whispered, my voice shaking. She didn't answer, but the lights above flickered, and the temperature plummeted. My breath came out in sharp white bursts. Then she spoke, or something did. Not with words, but a sound that burrowed into my skull, a low, keening wail that made my teeth ache. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I hit the break room, slamming the door behind me. My hands were trembling so bad, I could barely light a cigarette. I told myself I was done, that I'd quit right then and there, but I couldn't leave mid-shift without Paul docking my pay, or worse, firing me outright. I needed the money. So I sat there, chain-smoking, until my nerves settled enough to go back out. The rest of the shift was quiet, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. When I clocked out at 7 a.m., the sky was gray and heavy with snow clouds. I drove home in a daze, the woman's eyeless face burned into my mind. I didn't sleep that day. I couldn't. The next night, I almost didn't go back. But bills don't pay themselves, and I'd already burned through my savings. I told myself I'd stick to the main floor, avoid the back aisles, keep my head down. It worked for a while. Then, around 4 a.m., the power cut out. The warehouse plunged into darkness. The hum of the lights replaced by a deafening silence. My scanner died in my hand, its screen went black. I fumbled for my phone, the flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. The air felt thick. Oppressive, like it was pressing down on me. I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming from aisle 15. I swung the light toward the sound, but the aisle was empty. Then, the whispers started. "Come see," they hissed, soft and insistent. Come see." I bolted for the exit, my boots pounding the concrete. The whispers followed, growing louder, angrier. I reached the door, yanked it open, and froze. The parking lot was gone. Beyond the threshold was nothing but a void. A swirling black fog that moved like a living thing. I slammed the door shut, my chest heaving. The whispers stopped, replaced by that same child's laugh, sharp and mocking. I turned back to the warehouse. The lights were still out, but something glowed faintly in the distance. A sickly yellow light, spilling from the freezer section. Against every instinct, I moved toward it. I don't know why, maybe I was too scared to stay put, too desperate to understand what was happening. The air grew colder as I approached, the glow intensifying. When I reached the freezer doors, I saw it. It was 5 figures standing in the mist, their bodies charred and twisted, frozen in grotesque poses. The woman was there, her eyeless face turned toward me. The others, 2 men, a woman, and a child, stared with hollow sockets, their mouths moving in unison. No sound came out, but I felt their words in my bones. Get out. The floor beneath me cracked, ice splintering up through the concrete. I ran again, back to the main floor, back to the exit. This time, the door opened to the parking lot, the first streaks of dawn painting the sky. I didn't stop running until I was in my car, peeling out of the lot like the devil was on my heels. I quit that morning. Called Paul, left a voicemail saying I was done, no explanation. He didn't call back. I haven't been back to Maple Crest since, but I can't shake it. The whispers follow me now, faint, but persistent, creeping into my dreams. I see her face when I close my eyes, those empty sockets, that gaping mouth. And sometimes, late at night, I hear that child's laugh, sharp and close, like it's right behind me. I don't know what they wanted, those things in the warehouse. I don't know why they latched onto me. But I do know one thing, I'm never working nights again.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying getting these stories to you. And if you are, please subscribe. It allows you to know when a new story is out and allows me to get more subscribers. So please subscribe. Also share. Share this with your friends. Share it on media. Just a post. Well, that'd be great. Please subscribe. Please share. It's free. Share and subscribe. It's free.